We always want the newest. If Apple launched a new phone, your own one doesn't feel as good anymore. The new one come out with some new features, have a better camera, etc. So as technology develop, we always want the latest edition of everything. This presentation will explain some of the new IT functions we have today. Some you've heard about, but don't really know what they do. Some you use without even knowing it, and some you're probably familiar with. We start with the computer hardware. We have all seen the inside of a computer. Just a bunch of parts connected together that looks like a big mess. But what do all these parts do? We will not go into every part in detail, but I will explain three main parts of it. We start with the hard drive. This is where you save all your work. Your photos are stored here, all the important documents. Here is everything you have saved on your computer. You could think of it as a big warehouse where you put all the stuff you want to keep. Next up is the processor. The processor is the part that do all the work. It's the processor that opens the program you use to watch the movies you have stored on your hard drive. It's the processor that runs the game you play and run all the other parts of the computer. Without the processor, everything else in the computer would be useless. The last component is the random access memory, or more commonly known as RAM. This is the computer's memory that helps the processor to access things more quickly and makes you able to run more than one program at the same time. You have all heard about the cloud. But what is the cloud? In the beginning, people uploaded their photos and important documents as backups because they were afraid to lose them if their hard drive would have crashed. Now, a lot of people keep all their work on the cloud instead of on their own hard drive. The cloud makes you able to access all of your files from almost any device. We say you start writing a document at work on your computer and don't have the time to finish it. Then you could just access it from your smartphone and continue your work while sitting on the train on your way home. But it isn't only files that you can store on the cloud. On Google's new Chromebook, they have moved almost all of the storage to the cloud. Your web browser is your computer and you can do almost everything on it. It has replaced all the programs with apps in your web browser. So we are starting to use internet for more than just accessing websites and store important documents. The internet is growing, and it is growing a lot. According to Cisco, there were 12.5 billion devices connecting to the internet during 2010. And they predict the number of devices connected to have doubled by 2015 to 25 billion. And 5 years later, 2020, have doubled again to 50 billion. It's not only smartphones and computers that you can connect to the internet today. More and more different devices are supplied with Wi-Fi, making you able to connect them to each other or to your smartphone. The concept or idea of this is called the Internet of Things and could be defined as devices and humans interacting together through the internet. It can be used in your everyday life to save time or just as a smart feature. For example, say that you connect your coffee maker and alarm to each other so that when your alarm goes off and you get out of bed, you will have a full cup of coffee there waiting for you. You can also use it to assist you at work. Say, for example, your printer is running low on ink. You won't have to worry about being unable to print those important documents that you need for the meeting because your printer is connected to the company supply room and have given them a notice, so they're already on their way up with a new ink cartridge. The last part of this presentation is about the open source. Two programs that are open source is the web browser Mozilla Firefox and the video player VLC. Open source basically means that the design of something is publicly available and you're allowed to modify it and share it. To make it easier to explain this, let's start with explaining closed source. Microsoft Office and iTunes are examples of two programs that are closed source. When you use the software like Microsoft Office or iTunes, you have to agree to the terms in a license agreement that usually states that you can't give away copies of the software or in any way modify it in a way not intended by the developer. You could say that open source is the opposite. It encourages people to share their work and others to modify it for personal use or just to improve it. Open source makes the source code available for everyone. Most people don't know what the source code is, but it is the set of programming instructions that tells the computer what to do. So by making it available for everyone, other programmers can enhance it to make the program better, copy it, or just learn from it. Though open source is allowed to be modified and copied, it also has a set of legal terms. Some open source terms just make the software publicly available, while others ensure that if you share your modification of the software, you must also share the source code. Open source encourages innovation and have contributed to many of today's most used softwares. In the way that IT is developing now, we will successively move from computer hardware and lots of different software programs and replace it with new innovations that we are able to access and run through the internet. Maybe in 10 years, there will no longer be a need for a gardener. Instead, we have our robot lawn mower that are connected to your smartphone, so you monitor it and run it from your smartphone through an app. Underground sprinklers is already something that are being used, so no need to move around your water sprinkler. You can keep order in the garden even if you are on the other side of the world, just through your smartphone. This was all from me. Hope I was able to explain some of my thoughts and how I see on the development of IT.